first, I want to let you guys know about the Great Lakes Collectors Convention coming up next month, which UCSS will be a part of. The Great Lakes Collectors Convention is presented by Greeny Sports Card, and it is taking over the Field House in Independence, Ohio on April 14th through the 16th, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss, hundreds of display tables, card shop live theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media members, including a couple of the UCSS guys. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets are on sale at greenysportscards.com. We'll also be giving away some tickets. They are working on finalizing the giveaway upstairs. As soon as that is available, information-wise, we'll let you know. And Bull, me, you, G, and Jay are all going to be out there in April.
That's right. Jay, when are you going? We don't know your schedule.
I'm not sure yet. I don't know. That's the weekend my boat goes in the water, and I don't know exactly which of the days it goes in yet. So I'm up in the air.
Yeah.
I want to get some cards graded. I think they're going to have some.
This is really cool. Kids will have fun at this, too. It's going to be great. G, Mike, and I are all going to be there on Sunday. We're going to be part of a panel with our G and I have a mutual friend, Jonathan Peterlin, who Mike will like too, and he'll get to know him. A lot of my old colleagues from the fan will be there as well. Your old colleague Andy Baskin's going to be there. Darryl Ryder, Jonathan Peterlin, who mentioned. I think Nick Wilson, who took over my spot, will be there as well. We can actually talk about it. Unlike don't let them talk about it.
It's an all-star game. This is like the whole city there.
Ken Carmen will be there. Some of the guys from ESPN Cleveland will be there. Zach Meisel. Some other. It's going to be a great event.
Jason's going to be there too, to be honest.
What's that?
I think Jason Lloyd will be there too.
Well,
Jason is going to be there. I thought he was on the fence. Jason,
I don't know.
You going to be there?
You going, Jason Lloyd?
I thought he was too big time for that.
No, it depends. That's my kid's spring break, and I don't know what we're doing.
Okay.
But if we're home, I'll come. If we're home, I don't know if we're going to be in town or not. I never know.
Hey man, I don't like that.
Spring break is 2 weeks away. You don't know what your plans are already. What's happening here?
I mean, I just go where I'm told. We're not doing a big elaborate trip, but sometimes she tries to do short little. Sometimes my wife tries to do short little getaways.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't know where we're going to be.
I'm sorry. Don't ever have these palm trees looking at me right there like that.
I
man.
need to see
That's
that.
disrespectful.
That warms my soul. I need that.
By the way, so Jason recommended a guy named Mike to me, who's like a fix-it guy, does all this work in the house.
Yeah.
And Mike,
I got a guy.
Mike's a great guy. I met him. He came to my house a couple of weeks ago. We went through all the things I wanted him to do in my house. And then this morning, he came and started working. My wife just texted me, this is the best day ever, because he put up these new shades for her.
Oh, wow.
That she is super excited about.
Nice. Very
all
good.
right? So, and I said to him, yeah, Jason's out of town. He says to me, yeah, that figures.
You're back in Arizona. Tell us why.
NFL owners meetings. I might as well just forward my mail and move out here as much as I've been out here the last couple of weeks. So we talked to Andrew Berry on Sunday. We had Kevin at the coach's breakfast yesterday morning. The Haslam spoke to us last night before the big swanky dinner, and I can tell you there are a lot of hungover NFC head coaches at the breakfast this morning, because I will not use names, but these boys like to get after it. And the amount of alcohol consumed and the coaches that were staggering around here last night, this is a really swanky. I will call out the Seahawks GM. I was joking with you guys. John Schneider was wearing flip-flops at this.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man. What are you doing wearing flip-flops at
Not
this thing?
appropriate. Yeah, not.
There's a 10-piece orchestra playing in the background. Like, it's a really big deal. This swanky little soiree that they invite us peasants to is really this classy event, and then you got him walking around in flip-flops. You got head coaches exchanging blazers last night. Like, again, I'm not going to use names, but one was much larger than the other one, and they thought it was funny to see what they would look like in each other's jackets.
That guy in a little.
So they're swapping coats, and it was hilarious to see how just annihilated some of these, like to see them on the sidelines, and how proper they are, and then to see them staggering around here like a bunch of frat guys. It was it's pretty funny. It is like that every year.
You're wearing sunglasses this morning, though, and drinking coffee.
I'm totally sober. The sun is blinding me. It's so bright here.
I understand that.
Hey, Jason, what's the scuttlebutt there about Lamar Jackson this morning?
Well, I mean, yesterday was the biggie, and the timing on it was just unbelievable. It was like he had someone in the room who said, okay, John just entered the room. Okay, he's pulling out his chair. Send it now. Because within Lamar dropped that trade thing as John was taking his seat. It was unbelievable. And I was talking to people who were like, oh, poor Poor John. Like, it was an ambush.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
apparently the Ravens put out a news release that said what time he was going to be speaking. And so it was public knowledge, and Lamar knew, and I'm sure he timed it perfectly for when he walked in the room. I think, he hit send at the time that John was scheduled to take the podium.
Yeah, all the coaches speak at the same. It's 7:45 to 8:15 in the morning is the coaches' breakfast. Right. Yesterday was AFC. Morning was NFC. That we asked Jimmy about it, and the Browns are pretty unapologetic about it. And I asked Jimmy yesterday, do you feel like this, when you gave the contract, did you feel like it was groundbreaking, or did you feel like this is a historic moment? And he said, no, we just did what was best for our franchise. And that's the line that they're sticking to. I understand it. I don't blame them. It's not their job to worry about Baltimore or Cincinnati or anybody else. They have to do what's best for them. And we don't have to relitigate all the reasons why that contract was so controversial at the time. But they did what they thought was in the best interest of their organization. And say what you want about Jimmy, but he'll do whatever it takes to win. And that contract was proof of that.
Well, he screws it up most of the time, but yes.
He's not afraid to make the big move.
But he's not, and he shouldn't be. We've talked about this before. There's no need he has no reason to apologize. It's silly of him to say he didn't think it was a groundbreaking contract. It was obviously a groundbreaking contract. But the idea that he would have to apologize for it to me is laughable.
Yeah, I was talking to people yesterday around the league who were like, Baltimore's had plenty of time. They didn't have to be in this position. Basically whoever gets there first gets the best deal. And the Josh Allen deal, when it was signed, everyone was like, oh my God, look at this money. This is outrageous. And now you look at it today and you're like, yeah, all right. Not that big of a deal.
Right.
And you sort of want to be first, because the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to get. I said before, I think he's played his last snap for Baltimore. I don't know how this ends. I don't think it'll be till after the draft. Some of these teams, the Colts are a good example. They got the fourth pick? They're not going to give up the fourth pick for Lamar. But after the draft, if they sign him to an offer sheet and they work out the terms of the trade and it's 2 1s or whatever, you're a little bit more comfortable giving up that pick next year if it's, if you think it's going to be 15, 16, 17, or maybe even into the 20s, rather than giving up the number 4 pick. So I think this is going to stretch. There's not going to be a conclusion to this Lamar thing anytime soon. I think it'll extend beyond the draft. But it's fascinating to watch, man, from afar. It's fascinating.
High drama. Do you think there's a chance he doesn't play?
I was just about to ask that.
That actually was discussed last night at that thing, and we were just sort of a few of us were talking about that. I think that would be a massive mistake.
I agree with you.
Massive mistake.
I agree.
If he sits out the year.
But
I just think that's career suicide.
Yeah. For a quarterback,
I don't agree it's career suicide. I think it's a mistake, but I think career suicide is too strong.
Who's the only other player that's ever done that? Le'Veon Bell? And he was
Deshaun
completely
Watson?
Now it's a different position. But sitting out over a contract dispute. Le'Veon Bell is the only one that I could come up with.
Right, but Le'Veon Bell was a running back, Jason. To me, it's a big difference.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But he was at the prime of his career, at the peak of his career, and then he sat out that year, and he was never the same player after that.
Hey, Jim,
I just think it would be a disaster.
I'm wondering if you had any
sweating here. It's so hot.
Yeah, well, listen, it's understandable.
Tough life.
We're sweating in here too. I'm wondering if you had any conversations with Jimmy about last year. We were talking earlier about that Falcons game where everybody watching at home is watching Atlanta do the same thing play after play with the same results. Bull said it. We talked about it at the time. How was Joe Woods not fired after that game? Was there any thoughts by Jimmy on maybe moving on from either a coordinator or doing anything during the season to try to stop the bleeding?
Well, I asked him if he thought if he was disappointed with how last year went and if he ever considered making any changes. Mikey, is that one of the – I don't remember now.
Yes,
that one
it
of the
is,
clips that we had that we
It is. You want to play it, Jason?
All right. Let's go ahead and play that. This is from Jimmy and D. Haslam's availability yesterday with us.
Were you disappointed at all with how last season went and how it finished, and did you ever consider making changes to the top positions?
No consideration at all in making, I see what you're talking about with like Andrew or Kevin, no consideration there. We were all disappointed. None of us thought we'd be 7-10, even with Jacoby or playing 11 games, Deshaun missing 11 games, however you want to say it. We were all disappointed. very disappointed. Like I said, the desire to win in that building, whether it's ownership, I'm just repeating myself on personnel, coaches, is extremely high. We've got high standards, so we expect to do better.
Well, we couldn't hear the beginning of that because Mike was yammering in our ear there, Jason. I think he said that he never considered firing anybody during the season. Is that correct?
No, never considered
Yeah,
any
strange
changes at
to
the
me.
top to Andrew or Kevin. And then we went on and asked him, I don't think we have this one, but I said, basically, there's always pressure to win? And he said, yes, of course. I said, is there even more pressure, basically? And, are these guys in trouble if you don't get off to a quick start? He wouldn't necessarily go there. He did say there's a sense of urgency. He stopped short of putting any sort of ultimatum on, playoffs or else. But, he also said it's too early to start talking about contract extensions. So I think everybody involved, I think they have 2 years left on their deals. I think. I'd have to go back and look. But I think Barry and Kevin both have 2 years left. And he said it's too early to start talking about that. Well, yes and no. It is a little bit early now. But really, after this year is when you start having those conversations because you don't want lame duck guys. So, listen, I think we're on track with what we've said all along, that this is a big year. This is an important year. There's a lot at stake this year. And yeah, I think, I know G's been on the 6 games thing. I don't know if there's a magic number. I think it's more by feel of what you see. But if there's not drastic improvement, I think all these guys know what's at stake. And I think that they know, if they do get off to a poor start, if they are not performing to the level that they feel like they've retooled the offense. They've added so much speed to this offense just in the last couple of weeks, and they've given Deshaun more of their type of receivers that he needs to go and to make this thing work. So they feel like they've put everything in place. Now they have to go out and do it.
Jason, I think you were the first one to say it, kind of reiterating by talking to Kevin Stefanski. You believe this offense is going to be night and day. You believe it's going to be completely different from what we've seen in running the ball and pounding and doing those things. Is this going to be something when fans open up camp, they're going to say, wow, I've never seen the Browns do something like this?
Yeah, I think you could. And, Kevin sort of reiterated it yesterday where he's like, plays are plays. And we can draw up a million plays. It's what he feels comfortable with. It's what Deshaun feels comfortable running is what we're going to go with. And, I just think last year, and we talked about it on the show before, it's so complicated when you first of all, you don't know how many games you have Jacoby for. And this stretched on longer last year than anyone in the organization thought it would in terms of just having clarity to the whole thing. And I think, and I asked Kevin, and Kevin didn't really go there. I said, how much was last year complicated or compromised by the uncertainty? And he said, it's no different than if you have an injury at the court. Like, there's always injuries in the NFL. It's no different if your quarterback gets hurt. But the difference here was you're trying to install a new system for a guy who hadn't taken a snap yet. And yet you were trying to balance the playbook for Jacoby versus Deshaun. And they're two very different quarterbacks in terms of what they can do and how they have success. So I just don't think it left enough time to try and turn the whole thing over. Just in those last 6 weeks, I do think they tried to tinker with some things in training camp last year, but they were also trying to get Jacoby ready to play, and just the uncertainty of not knowing how many games it was going to be. All that's gone. That's no longer an excuse. They know they've got Deshaun. Jimmy said it yesterday, barring injury, provided he stays healthy, they've got Deshaun Watson for 17 games this year. And no one's concerned. He does still have some legal things outstanding. No one really wanted to talk about those. No one thought it was going to really impact what he's doing. They expect him to be a full participant when he's needed in Berea. and they're gonna, they're leaving from here and they're going on vacation. Kevin's family is here and they're going to Hawaii from this. So everything's going to shut down after this is over. Guys are going to decompress a little bit, take a bit of a breath, reconvene, start, really digging in on the draft. And, Deshaun has got guys in Houston he's throwing to either last week or this coming week. I don't remember now which one it is. So they're starting to build this thing up and ramp this thing and put it together. And they'll put their heads together and they'll come up with the plays and the system that they think works best.
Jason, something we've talked about.
But I do think it'll be significantly different.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Something we've talked about recently is Jimmy's rather large purchase of another sports team. And I know you asked him about this specifically. You want to set up the clip?
Yeah, obviously buying the Bucks, and he said it's not finalized yet. He couldn't really talk about it, and then he proceeded to talk about it anyway because Jimmy just can't help himself.
That's Jimmy.
So here's the clip on Jimmy buying the Milwaukee Bucks.
People want to know how your branching out will affect ownership of the Browns.
Zero.
Even though you're inheriting a governorship role of that team?
Well,
Or is
if
that
we're
to be-
approved, Wes would be the governor first, so we have some time there.
Like
Will
3
he
years?
finish out that? Will he finish out that term?
We're working through those details now, but this is not going to be. If you look at that team, they're performing pretty well, right? So we're going to keep our head down, ask a lot of questions, and try to learn, right?
Well, kind of along those lines, the Cavs-Bucks playoff series.
It would be awkward.
Have you had that discussion, and what are your thoughts
Not
on
yet.
that? But it would be awkward.
It would be awkward.
Might have to sit in the suite for that one.
Hey man, that rich old white guy laugh is crazy. Yeah, I just bought the whole southern hemisphere, which you didn't know. I own everything below the equator, including Antarctica.
Now I have another business that I will get away from not paying taxes for.
Well, we talked about it on the show before, and the Bucks need Jimmy's checkbook. They're trying to keep this thing together, and Mark Lazary, the owner who Jimmy's buying out his shares, doesn't have the money that Jimmy has. And man, we need to update that video. That's still last year's video. We don't have any new video of him walking through the.
Unless you take
I
it.
should have pulled out my phone.
KYC didn't send a.
We need a video of him not looking like he's about to take a crap. I mean, that's what we need.
We talked about the fact that the Bucks need his checkbook to keep Chris Middleton and Giannis and Brook Lopez and keep this group together, and that's really his role in this. But I'll cut him a little bit of slack. It is kind of awkward that the Bucks and Cavs are going to be rivals for the next few years. But I guess what I would say is that won't last forever, and these things are hard to find. Like, these teams don't become available very often, and you have to sort of take it. If you want to buy a team, you have to take advantage of it when it's there.
Right.
And this is the opportunity that presented itself. And I asked him about the Suns because the Suns were available, and he could have bought them outright. And they're a team at the top of the West right now. They got Kevin Durant, a superstar. They didn't have Durant when the team was sold.
No, he wasn't on the
but
roster
it was still
then.
but it was still another NBA team that come up, and he wouldn't have to share ownership duties like he does now with the Edens family. He would have had outright control. And Jimmy said it was too far. Like, they liked the fact. I didn't realize how much they're here, because I asked him, like, how often are you in Cleveland? And they said a lot. He said quite a bit, and I said half the year, and they said at least. And I guess I didn't realize that they are in Cleveland as much as they are. Now, maybe that's the football season. Maybe they come in July and stay through December. I don't know. But they're here. I kind of thought maybe they were in and out more, and they made it sound like they stay here more than I thought originally. And they like the fact that they've got the crew in Columbus, obviously the Browns here, and now the Bucks in Milwaukee's a short flight away from their home base of Tennessee, and Phoenix was just too far away. So that's geographically like the Bucks situation.
Tough life, Dave.
Jay, tough life.
Yeah, I
indeed.
know, right?
On the business of the owners' meetings, I know there's a lot on the agenda. I read yesterday that the commander sale will not be voted on here. It's going to probably happen in May when they get together in Minneapolis. But one of the things that I found very interesting is they're going to vote on whether or not to flex Thursday night games from week 14 through week 17. And I got to tell you, based on what we saw happen last year with Tua and how much the players have already said they hate playing on the short week, now you throw in the possibility that if you're a good team and you're playing meaningful games, you're going to be likely to be flexed into one of those Thursday night games, weeks 14, 15, 16, and 17. A, do you think this is going to pass? And if it does, I can't imagine the players are going to be happy about that.
I think it will pass because the league always gets what it wants. And, health be damned and what's right and what's wrong be damned. We just saw that with Jim Trotter and the crap that went on with Jim Trotter. Because you know what? They know you're going to watch. So they can do whatever they want because you're still going to watch, you're still going to go to the games, you're still going to spend your money, and they don't care. And the players, like I've had players for years tell me that how much they hate Thursday night games, and not necessarily that, but all the changes that they wanted in the next CBA, in the next bargaining session, and then they just roll over every time anyway. So, so I fully expect this deal to pass. If that's what the league wants, the league's going to get it.
There'll be 18 games too, Jason.
Oh,
We're going to 18 games.
Yeah,
That's going to happen.
that's definitely happening down the road.
There's no doubt.
Any other talk on rules changes? Anything big that might come out of these meetings?
The 4th and 15 instead of the onside kick, we doing that?
The push in the back at the 4th and 1 short.
Yeah, the Bush push that's now legal.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't kept up with that. I've been chasing other stuff while I was out here. I know we talked to Kevin yesterday briefly about the idea of touchbacks after punts going to the 25 rather than the 20 in an effort for less punting and more going for it, which, as we know, Kevin doesn't need any motivation there. He loves going for it on 4th down. And I think that, I'm not a, we've talked about that at length, and there were a few last year that I didn't like, but by and large, I don't mind it. But they are trying to tweak some rules to sort of do away with more punting and kickoffs and more going for it and less collisions and more player safety. But I don't know how much I actually believe they care about player safety.
Hey, Jason, last thing from me, and then Mikey has something before we leave you to do whatever frolicking you're going to do out there. Your thought? I don't know if you heard I'm sure you heard the update, but just in case you didn't, it comes out. Tristan McKenzie shut down for 2 weeks at least, and he could miss up to 8 weeks. Obviously, this is huge. The guy's supposed to pitch the second game of the year. How big a deal in your mind, and what do you think they'll do to replace him in the rotation?
I think it'll be Hunter Gaddis. We should probably have an answer on that soon, I would think. Tito's probably getting ready to meet with the media. If he hasn't already, it should be, 9:45? It should be right around now that he's or if he hasn't done it already. Listen, we talked about it on the show before where I felt like their biggest weakness might be in their starting pitching. And these guys have not had a good spring. And I know people don't want to talk about it. You don't want to make a big deal about spring numbers, and I get it. And Bieber's had a fantastic camp. He looks terrific. But when I was out there, I don't remember now the exact number, but the rest of the starters had an ERA around 7. And now McKenzie's hurt. And Tito said, as long as you have a track record in the majors, he doesn't care and so much about spring training numbers. They matter a little bit more when he's not familiar with them. When it's young guys, you look at the numbers a little bit more than you do for veterans. But, I've always sort of felt like we've talked at length about how stocked their farm system is, and they're probably going to have to make a move at the deadline, and I think it'll probably be for a pitcher. And, they were already thin, and now to lose McKenzie before the year even starts, it's absolutely a concern because you weren't sure how much you could rely on Savali and Plesac to begin with. Well, now you're bumping them up another spot. They're your 3 and 4 starters.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to go out and make a trade right now. I don't think they're going to rush any of their young guys. Certainly not Esposito. He's not ready coming off the injury. I don't think Gavin Williams or Bybee are ready. They're not going to do anything rash like that. I think that they'll probably put Gaddis in there for now. He's stretched out enough. Some of those other guys aren't really stretched out. Gaddis has started a few spring training games. He can work deeper into games right now. So I think that's the route that they'll go in the short term. And then, we'll wait and see who's released on cut downs, if there's somebody they like better, or if there's a small move to make. But I don't think they're going to make a major move right now. And maybe Tristan's not out 8 weeks. Maybe he's back sooner. I think, we always jumping to the worst case scenario that they put out of shutting him down for 2 weeks and could miss up to 8. And who knows? Maybe this goes to 9 or 10, or maybe he's back at 6. I don't know that we know yet. I don't think they make a drastic move now. I think they try and handle it internally for now, or maybe a small move. And then, as we get going here and they see where their holes are, they can address them at the trade deadline.
Mikey?
Yeah, Jason, got a couple YouTube comments I want to read to you here about this hit. Someone named Anthony Antonelli says, "Why does Jason look like a cocaine kingpin?" Oh, I got more. This is just the beginning. Evan419 says, "Jason looks like he parks his Corvette in front of valet, tosses the keys, and says, 'I'll hit you when I get back,' and winks at him while walking away." Someone named Garrett Bush says, "This dude Jason be out of town every week. Damn it, that athletic bag is different," with 17 exclamation marks. Corey McLaughlin says, "Jason Lloyd got them Johnny Bravo shades on."
There's so much hate.
Lawrence Goggins. No,
it's
going to end on a good note. Don't worry. It's going to end on a good note.
Good.
Jason, Lawrence Goggins says, Jason looks like he presses charges for sure if you want to go there, buddy. King Beezit says, there's definitely Mike's Hard Lemonade in that coffee mug. Corey also says, little known fact, Jason used to be in Smash Mouth. MJ says, Jason Lloyd is the type of person to eat 20 White Castles and 5 beers in one sitting. That's kind of messed up. But Tony Masalelli and a bunch of people who agreed with this says, low-key, Jason is easily the most likable sports reporter I've ever seen.
Let's not get crazy.
It is always good fun.
No, I co-sign that last one. Very
Yo.
likable, very knowledgeable, great at his job. Keep doing you, man. It's working for you, Jay.
See you, Jason.
Oh, shoot. That's funny. All right, I'll be back with you guys. I'll be back with you guys next week. I'll see you.
Can't wait.
We'll see you later.